quick reaction from you. When we talk about cultural nationalism, we only relate it with political Hinduism. But the fact of the matter is that the glorious homeland is a theme which is both common to Nehru and Savarkar. Glorious homeland is a theme which is common to Gandhi, Tilak, Aurobindo, Vivekanand, Bankim Chand Chatterjee, Shivaji, even Gokhale. You name any freedom fighter, the glorious homeland and its cultural artifacts. So I'll start with you, Mr. Verma, then I'll go to Arun and then to Nilanjan. Then why is it being limited to Hindutva when it has been part of the imagination of freedom struggle also? Inspiration was taken from the concept of glorious homeland.
Because you see, Hindutva, as the Supreme Court, its Honorable Supreme Court also said that it is not to be equated with the Semitic religions like Christianity and Islam. When you say Hindutva, Hindu is a word which is indicative of, the entire existence of, this land. It includes, because you see, the fundamental problem is that when you say word dharma and use it as a synonym for religion, there's a lot of confusion, because in Hindu dharma, the plurality of these religions has been there is a plethora of religions existing within the Hindu framework. So that we have to understand that Hinduism or Hindutva is not a particular ritualistic Semitic religion, and therefore to equating with Islam and Christianity is absolutely a blunder. So
Okay.
when you say Hindutva is a project which is inclusive of all the religions, which is in existence here for a very long
Okay,
time.
fair enough, fair enough.
We accommodate each and every religion.
Fair enough. My question was on a different tangent, Mr. Verma. Arun, if you can answer that? My question is that today people equate political Hinduism and cultural nationalism. My question is that what we define as the artifacts of cultural nationalism, the entire generation of freedom, people associated with the freedom struggle, it was based on that. Whether it's Nehru, whether it's Savarkar, I am using the word, the glorious homeland. It's associated with glorious homeland. Whether you read Tilak, Aurobindo, Vivekanand, it's about glorious homeland. Even Gandhi, Ramraj, it's about glorious homeland. When did this discontinuity start? I mean to say, the entire ecosystem to resist Britishers, the moral energy was being drawn from these cultural artifacts only. Arun.
No, Karthikeya, first I want to, you have raised a very interesting point. I think we need to go beyond, I'll answer your question, but I'll begin by saying that, there has been too much of discussion about the Savarkar's concept of political Hindutva. And most of the people have missed the point, unfortunately, that the RSS and even what you have talked about, the freedom struggle, I think they were not talking about cultural nationalism, they were talking about spiritual nationalism, which was, I would say, the RSS, in fact, the RSS founder, Dr. Hedgewar, he was very close to Shri Aurobindo also. So, I think the concept of, the cultural nationalism is a sub-function of, I would say, spiritual nationalism. So initially the BJP, Bharatiya Janata Sangh, RSS and people, as you say, who are right of the center. So they took up the concept of cultural nationalism and this concept became very popular. But people should read basically, what Bipin Chandra Pal has written in The Soul of India, a very fine book which was printed in 1911. He has talked about spiritual nationalism. Aurobindo has talked about spiritual nationalism. Rabindranath Tagore has talked about spiritual nationalism. So there is so when these people were talking, but after independence, what happened? Because on the academia, in the public discourse, and within Congress also, the left or the Marxist framework dominated, or either the Western framework dominated. So this took us to answer your question. So gradually we moved away from spiritual nationalism, and what we are seeing today in Ayodhya actually is a milestone in our journey towards that spiritual nationalism, attaining that spiritual nationalism. Why I am saying this? Two things, as you said, the glorious homeland. In fact, this concept comes straight from Valmiki Ramayana, where when Shri Ram wins the war And then Lakshman, he tells Lakshman, that I don't want to stay in this Lanka which is made of gold. There is a very fine, shlok there where he says, Api Swarnamai Lanka, Lakshman na rochite, Janani Jan Bhumish Swargat Abhi Kariyasi, which basically means, the glorious homeland. Even if it is a Lanka of gold, it doesn't interest me. I want to go to my motherland. So this concept comes straight from there, and you will. So one is that. Second is that I think we need to look at, and then there is a very interesting shlok, and what this government is doing, what Modi is doing. Actually, what Modi is doing is he's bringing back spiritual nationalism. He's rejuvenating the spiritual centers. He's not moving towards cultural nationalism. It's much beyond that. It's much bigger than that. And that's why you see the whole diaspora also celebrating. It's not about culture. There is a very interesting shlok in one of our sacred scriptures which says, Ayodhya, you'll understand how we are going to move forward as you had talked about Mathura, Kashi. Ayodhya, Mathura, Maya, Kashi, Kanchi, Avantika, Puri, Dwarvati, Va Saptai, Te Mokshdayika. Which means there are 7 cities which will give you moksha, which will give you the, what you call, the liberation. And these are Ayodhya, Mathura, Maya. Maya means basically Mayapuri, Haridwar, you can say. Kashi, Kanchi is basically, Kanchipuram. Avantika is Ujjain. So we have seen what has happened in Ujjain, and we're seeing what is happening in Ayodhya. To some extent, the Kashi has also been, kind of rejuvenated. Uh, so this is what we are saying. So we must stop talking about cultural nationalism, and we should, my humble suggestion is, look at spiritual nationalism and look at what Arbindo has said. What Arbindo
Okay.
had I
Let me
think this
stop you.
is
Let me stop you here, because the reason why I was using Arbindo's name is people generally equate that the word Hindutva comes in context of Savarkar. If you read Arbindo, uh, the word Hindutva, Hindu is there, and Arbindo is marshalling all the cultural artifacts for the glorious homeland. How an outsider can be resisted? So my question to you, Nilanjan, is that when we locate these debates between 30s and 40s, do we forget that 20-30 years after 1857, there was a consciousness in the Indian cultural setup groomed by the Britishers, Rai Bahadurs, or people who were part and parcel of the colonial system, who felt that Hindu rejuvenation, Hindu reform, and Hindu identity are fundamental to the state of nation. Nilanjan.
I find it very problematic of trying to unite people on the basis of their beliefs. I'm not saying, giving it a tag by saying that religious belief or spiritual belief, but saying that everybody must have one belief system. That is the underlying, from what I understand, of the entire campaign, not just surrounding the Ram temple, but the entire ideology that the oneness is something that is all the time emphasized by the Sangh Parivar. And for about 100 years, the RSS was formed in 1925. Next year onwards, we'll enter a very important year, that is the centenary year of the RSS. The general attempt has been to emphasize this oneness. The same thing is happening here, that Ram is one. Every Indian must come and express, loyalty, allegiance to the idea of Ram as presented by the Sangh Parivar. The Ram no longer is being talked about, the multiple narratives which are there across India, outside India also. If we actually study how many types of Ramayana, the variations, the narrative modifications which have been done, I do not want to list it because it has been also in the realm of controversy through this agitation. We remember that very well, agitation which was led by a group of educationists who were aligned with the RSS against that essay 100 Ramayans, 100 Ramayans, A.K. Ramanujan's essay. So we have gone through all these things, trying to reduce everything to the principle of one. Even in politics, This is something that is happening at the moment, that you no longer have a ruling party which is a collective as it used to be, but essentially one person driven. We have to also realize and very carefully look at as to what is going to happen ahead. We are looking all the time, in the back as to what has happened, but there is tremendous amount of euphoria. Will it be possible to sustain this euphoria? Or to sustain this euphoria, would there be one episode after another that is going to be unfolded in future? These are very important questions. We also have to accept the fact that if what I said right in the beginning, that I have, find it problematic to say that there is only one belief, because there are people of different beliefs. Even within Hindus, there are multiple narratives. I grew up in a Bengali, household in North India, sharing both the Durga tradition during that period and also the Ramayana tradition, which used to be celebrated in the town that I grew up in. But there are other peoples who at some point, Ramayana was a very distant, narrative during that period, the period in September, October, though the Navratri followed by that. That is how is there. So there are different emphasis. People emphasize differently in different parts of India what is there. There are also people of other faiths, There are Muslims, there are Christians, there are Sikhs, there are Jains, there are Buddhists. We have categorized the Buddhists, Jains, and Sikhs as part of the Indic religion family. That those are who have their holy land in India. What about people who have their so-called holy land outside India?
Okay.
If they have to sustain, to be able to exercise their rights which are guaranteed by the Constitution, do they have to accept this one belief which is being promoted? Mohan Bhagwat ji, he keeps on saying that everybody in this country is a Hindu. Mr. Modi has also said, he said in an interview to me that people can follow different faiths, but the exact sentence was that हमारे आदर्श और महापुरुषों को मानना होगा. That is the central argument in the Ram Janmabhoomi, that everybody who lives in this nation must accept the ideas and the ideals of the majority.
Okay, I think very well put. I think very well put. But the other side, the other side of the story is that this defining moment has come. Now, how it's going to marshal the civil society in future is something which we'll have to wait and see. But thank you all of you for joining me in this hour of the show. And I firmly believe that at least, I would not use the word controversy, but an issue has come to an end, because if you look at the people who are there, it represents a large majority of mainstream from every walk of life. I mean, I can just continue to take names, the people who have just seen, from Bombay, from Chennai, from Andhra Pradesh. Who's who is an understatement, but I think whoever matters is there. It's time for a short break. I'll be back, and this time we are going to talk about what next.
अयोध्या में आज आपको हर तरफ उत्सव जैसा माहौल दिखेगा। जिस जगह पर इस वक्त मैं मौजूद हूँ वो अयोध्या धाम से 10 किलोमीटर की दूरी पर है, लेकिन 10 किलोमीटर की दूरी पर भी किस तरीके से महोत्सव मनाया जा रहा है ये आप तस्वीरों में देखिए। यहाँ पर मंच पर देखिए कि किस तरह से जो लड़कियां हैं वो नृत्य का प्रदर्शन यहाँ पर कर रही हैं, खूबसूरत, और कई चीज़ें भी यहाँ पर रखी हैं जो पारंपरिक वस्तुएं हैं, उनके साथ जो नृत्य होता है अवध का पारंपरिक, उसका प्रदर्शन यहाँ पर करते हुए आपको दिखाई देंगी। एक मंच यहाँ पर भी बनाया गया है और कलाकार देख सकते हैं आपकी वाद्य यंत्र के साथ भी बैठे हुए हैं। ऊपर से जो म्यूजिक होता है पारंपरिक, उस संगीत पर यहाँ पर लोग नृत्य कर रहे हैं। किस तरह का नृत्य है उसके बारे में बताइए।
ये बधावा लोक नृत्य संगमलता की टीम है, बोल दीजिए, बात कर लीजिए।
अच्छा, और कुछ लोग कलाकार भी हमारे साथ हैं, उनसे भी बातचीत करते हैं। कहाँ से आप लोग आए हैं प्रदर्शन?
हम लोग अयोध्या से ही हैं।
अच्छा
जी, और ये अयोध्या का पारंपरिक बधावा लोक नृत्य हम लोग कर रहे हैं। जो हर मंगल खुशी पे किया जाता है। और आज तो और भी ज़्यादा मंगल की बात है, क्योंकि हमारे प्रभु श्री रामचंद्र जी अपने रामलला सरकार अपने मंदिर में विराजमान होंगे, तो ये हमारे लिए बहुत ही खुशी की बात है।
तो आप लोग अयोध्या से ही हैं और अयोध्या का उत्सव मना रहे हैं आज।
जी बिल्कुल, बधावा लोक नृत्य के माध्यम से हम लोग अयोध्या का ये पावन लोक नृत्य अपने इस गीत के माध्यम से हम लोग व्यक्त कर रहे हैं।
बिल्कुल, तो आप देख लीजिए कि ये जो लोक नृत्य की हम बात कर रहे थे, ये अयोध्या का पारंपरिक लोक नृत्य है और रामलला के प्राण प्रतिष्ठा के महोत्सव के मौके पर ये तमाम कलाकार यहाँ पर जुटे हैं, जो कि उस उत्सव में शामिल हो रहे हैं अपने इस नृत्य के प्रदर्शन के माध्यम से। और आप देख सकते हैं कि सामने जो वाद्य यंत्र बजाते हुए और कलाकार हैं, ये भी अयोध्या के ही स्थानीय कलाकार हैं। तो देश के तमाम राज्यों से, अलग अलग कस्बों से तो आए ही हैं कलाकार। अयोध्या का असली नृत्य और संगीत आपको इसी जगह पर मिलेगा। इस जगह पर आपको देख सकते हैं कि अयोध्या का स्थानीय और पारंपरिक लोक नृत्य यहाँ पर कलाकार करते हुए हम आपको तस्वीरें दिखा रहे हैं। और वो भी अयोध्या से 10 किलोमीटर दूर, यानी अयोध्या धाम जिस जगह पर राम मंदिर में इस वक्त रामलला की प्राण प्रतिष्ठा हो रही है, वहाँ से 10 किलोमीटर दूर ये तमाम कलाकार जो हैं वो इस वक्त प्रदर्शन कर रहे हैं। तो ये खूबसूरत तस्वीर अयोध्या से।